We're up and rolling on Conversations with Deborah, a bi-coastal dialogue from me from Los Angeles and Deborah Manning from South Carolina. How you doing,
In
Deborah?
Greenville, South Carolina. I'm doing great. How are you this afternoon? It's 3 o'clock here, and it is Friday, the very lucky 13th.
13. I find Friday the 13th lucky.
Well, I do too. My late husband was born on a Friday the 13th, so we always considered it to be lucky.
I don't know what I consider, and I also consider when black cats cross my path lucky.
Well, I'll tell you, I got one sitting right over here.
Yeah,
You behave now, okay? He's trying very hard. He's the youngest of our 6, and he is very enthusiastic about life. He wakes us up at 5 o'clock every single morning, and of course insists upon being between myself and my husband Fish. And he ends up meowing and kneading and giving us hugs and kisses and all of that. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, it gets to be a little rough. But
well, at least he doesn't demand to be walked.
No, because wouldn't that be something?
Well, I think I tell you the story. I used to, when I lived in Manhattan, I had a cat that walked on my shoulder, and I taught her how to go on a harness and a leash. And I used to walk Central Park.
You told me that. That is so cool. I think that is the neatest thing.
Yeah, I used to walk Central Park.
Cats are very, very smart. They really are. I don't care what anybody says.
You have to train them. I mean, you have to.
Yes, you do.
At an early age. Like you have to train people at an early age.
That's right. So what do you want to talk about today?
I don't know. The elections of, no, actually, I wanted to talk about a show that you might be interested in, that it's called Many Shades of Green, which is another show that I do. And the show is about the environment and ecology. And yesterday we had a lady farmer.
Nice.
And what she does, it was funny because we, no, not funny, but we talked about how she got in. She worked 10 years for Starbucks.
Oh.
And I think at the 10 years, they give them a certain vacation. It's called the coffee break. And she went to France, and she was working on a farm.
Wow.
I forget how she got to France working on a farm, but she said she loved it.
That's wonderful.
And she came back, and that's what she decided to do. Start doing, a small-time farm. And she does it, and she has I don't know if she rented or she owns it from Dick Button.
Oh, really?
Are you familiar with the name Dick Button?
I sure am.
Yeah, Dick Button was an Olympic skater. I think he won the gold medal.
Yes.
And then he was a commentator on ABC Wide World of Sports when they did skating.
Oh my gosh.
And he lives on, he has a property next to her, and he owns that property, and 93 years old.
You know what? Medicine has changed that if you think about it, age 70, which I'm not, but age 70 is the new 50, or maybe even the new 40. There are so many people here in South Carolina that are in their 90s. It's just remarkable. And it's remarkable the advances that medicine has made. I mean, for example, and I'll bring this back, but with the situation with COVID, when President Trump got the COVID virus, he was out in 3-4 days.
That was amazing.
Well, it is amazing because, and what it means is that the science, and it means that the pharmaceuticals are catching up. And thank heavens, once again, Pfizer, and it looks like Moderna is going to start to have a vaccine. And it looks like now President Trump has said, we're going to go ahead and make this free to everybody, as it should be. Now, we're not going to ship it over as Joe Biden has suggested, outside of America. We're going to take care of Americans first, get them all taken care of, the healthcare workers and the nursing home vulnerable folks. And then it looks like it will be available to the rest of us early January or February. I mean, thank heavens for that. But let's get to the elephant in the room, okay?
Oh, pray tell, what is that?
The elephant in the room is this election. And you know that I was the first one to call you and congratulate you on the win of Joe Biden.
Right.
All right. And I was willing at that. And I think you were a little surprised that I did that. No, I'm a civilized person. I'm a polite person. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I am. And I was willing to go ahead and at least accept it for what it was, which was at this point a possibility that looks like Joe Biden is going to be getting the presidency. I also mentioned to you that I'm going to continue to look and to see. And my concern at this point right now, and Malcolm, you're a smart man. You're a very smart guy. What really concerns me at this point is that regardless of what the news media is telling us, something's wrong here. Something has happened here when we have the battleground states on election night stopping almost simultaneously for almost a half an hour to an hour. Suddenly we have now affidavits coming through from people on the ground, not only poll watchers, but computer tech people, Minion voting tabulator computer, to voters themselves, all saying, I have witnessed some fraud here. Now, I just think we need to slow down. I think we need to really look into this, because this is not about Trump. This is not about Biden. This is about our free elections. And we've got to make sure the integrity of free elections stands. You cannot have, for example, in Georgia now, the Secretary of State is saying, oh, no, we're not going to verify on the absentee ballots the signatures. Well, I hasten to remind everybody that, for example, when I voted, I had to sign my ballot, and they did end up verifying it computer-wise, but they verified a signature. Absentee ballots need to have verification of signatures, as does any of the mail-in ballots. And some of the stories that I'm hearing really kind of make me want to slow down. In fact, unfortunately, in Georgia, the Secretary of State is saying that all of the recounts need to be done by tomorrow. Well, that's physically impossible. We need a hand recount of all of that. The other thing to me, but one last point, is that the Federal Election Commissioner, a guy by the name of Trey Traynor, came out this morning and said he has serious reservations at this point about the validity of the election, that he is extremely concerned with the stories and with the evidence that's being presented, that the voting process has been tainted. This is the individual, the Federal Election Commissioner. He's the one who will actually certify this, not CNN, not Fox News, not AP, none of these other people saying that. It has to be legitimate, because you've got 72 million Americans that need to be not forced into a decision. They need to be shown that, in fact, this is a fair situation that took place. So there, I've said my piece.
Okay, well, I'm not sure which news you're listening to, what
I'm listening to CNN, MSNBC, NPR, PBS, News, Fox.
But right now,
plus I'm watching the New York Times, I'm reading the Washington Post, and I'm also reading Epoch Times. And there's enough that's out there that really, as an independent voter, that concerns me. It concerns me. We need to slow down, and we need to do some counting of ballots. For example, when you have Dominion voting machines reversing 6,000 votes in a very small county in which had been declared a Democrat, suddenly they did a recount, and suddenly it's now, no, it's the Republican who won. This is the same situation that happened in Orange County back in 2018, where I believe a half a dozen Republican winners won on election night. And then 4 or 5 days later, the Democrats won. There's some issues here. Of course, in California, they allow ballot harvesting, which of course is just unbelievable to me, that third-party individuals can go out and collect ballots from people. And there is no chain of accuracy here. There's no chain to be able to make sure that these votes are in fact from said people, and that in fact they voted for the people that they actually voted for. I just have some real questions. Now, why don't you have questions about it?
Well, I would have questions if I heard, I think in every election I've ever heard, there are a certain amount of dead people voting. There are certain, I mean, I remember the old days of, in Chicago with Mayor Daley and how he supposedly, set up the elections. But these have been like small pockets of people trying to manipulate the elections and the results. I have not heard where, 5 states would go into collusion when they had, a lot of them had Republican attorney generals, Republican secretary of states, even Republican governors, and they were,
it has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to do with party, because and I know that because Trump is such a bonfire, there are many Republicans that don't support him. I'm talking about take Trump out of this. This has nothing to do with Trump. This has everything to do with election veracity, to the validity of the election.
Okay, well,
when ballots are accepted at 3 o'clock in the morning, when they're accepted 4 and 5 days late, I mean, you can certainly then ascertain how many additional votes that you need to be able to get to a certain win point.
Well, I think for 5 days,
I
think if you're talking about them accepting the late, there wasn't a late, was it late postmarks in Pennsylvania? I think there was a total of 500. First of all,
no, there's far more than that.
Secondly, that was because the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said that was okay. It wasn't something that was an aberration.
That is illegal.
Aberration.
That is illegal. The state law says only the state legislature can change.
No, but
that date, Malcolm, was changed almost just 2 days before the actual.
But they interpreted the state law.
No, you can't. The law is very, very specific.
So
is also very specific about allowing poll watchers. One thing that just really surprises me, if Joe Biden wants this feeling of unity, why wouldn't he come forward and say, you're right, let's go ahead, let's stall this, let's do a hand count on this situation?
Well, first of all,
what's going on?
They're doing a hand count in Georgia. Before I got on the air with you or the internet with you, they were talking about doing a hand count in Georgia.
And he said they're going to stop tomorrow. And
no, I think we'll go beyond that. I think they said it'll be like Tuesday or Wednesday where they have the other results.
They just changed their minds out of 5 minutes before we got on the air.
Oh, okay. And also I think I forget who it was, but it was one of the Trump appointees, I think it was Home Security, who said that it was the election was fair, it was square, it was a clean election.
Again, they're out of their lane. What does Homeland Security know about elections? They know nothing. Now, the one thing they can attest to, and I will accept that, is that they don't feel as though there's been Russian interference or Iranian interference, because they were very concerned about Chinese interference.
Okay. Now the question is, if you're in this,
they're out of their lane.
Do you think it was a conspiracy? Let's get some things out. Do you think it was a conspiracy, or each state did it individually?
I don't know. And once again, that's not the issue, because it's too easy to brush off conspiracy as being crazy. I'm really concerned about the integrity of this election, and you, as an intellectual, should be concerned about it too.
But for
who these people are, regardless of Trump or Biden.
What was the purpose of the, let's say, of the them fixing the election? Do you think it was because they wanted Biden to win and they wanted Trump out?
I don't know. Once again, I don't adhere to conspiracy. I don't adhere to those theories. I do adhere to, if you see, and because I have been a private investigator, and that's from my news reporting, I became a licensed private investigator in California, and I've done a lot of research along with Tom, my late husband. We did a lot of white collar crime issues. And one of the things that we look for is we had no preconceived idea as to how something should end. You just simply looked for the facts and you looked for the evidence. And when you have a preponderance of situations where you have signatures and ballots being counted 2 and 3 times, according to a Dominion computer tech who was there on the scene, when you have poll watchers being accepted only if they were Democrats and barred if they were Republicans, can't do things like that.
Okay, I have two questions. I mean, my big
Sure.
my big questions are as just as an analyst, and not even as an analyst, as a person. My big question is why? Number one, why would someone in all these states go rig this election for Biden? Number one, if they did go to the trouble to make they Biden the winner, why didn't they do other things like put the fix in for the Georgia Senate? Why is there a runoff? Why didn't they?
Well, the Georgia Senate, you now have Democrats suggesting that everybody move to Georgia so they can then pack the votes with moved Georgia people. I mean,
there's just going to be a ton of money into that. But the question is, why didn't they rig it so the Dems would win? Now, if in any of the election, why did they let your guy win in South Carolina?
Because you know why? You know why?
Why did they let McConnell win?
No. Let's go back to the situation here in South Carolina. The reason that Lindsey Graham won, and sometimes he's not our choice, but when you look at the other opposition, unfortunately, Mr. Harrison decided to do, once again, dirty tricks, and South Carolinians don't like dirty tricks. There was a third-party candidate which decided to drop out and gave his endorsement to Lindsey Graham. Well, guess what? The Democrat candidate, Mr. Harrison, Jamie Harrison, decided to start running ads because he had over $100 million that was donated from out of state. You said yourself you got a solicitation for setting in.
Oh yeah, that was I mean,
but the bottom line is that people don't appreciate that, and even the third-party candidate went on the air and said, "Do not vote for me. Vote for Lindsey Graham. I do not know why commercials are being run promoting me, and they're being run by Jamie Harrison." Incidentally, those commercials did not have the proper verification, which said at the bottom, this information has been sponsored by Jamie Harrison. No, it didn't say that, and you have to say that. So once again, it's a dirty trick.
Well, it doesn't have to be sponsored by Jamie Harrison. It has to say who sponsored. It could be, Citizens for a Good Election. That could be Jamie Harrison, but doesn't have to say that his name. I think this. Well, number one, we could have a whole, we can have months talking about election financing. Who finances? I think the election should be cut down to 2-3 months. And I have to agree
that outside money cannot come into a state.
Right.
I do not want to be able to have the ability to put money into Georgia because the Georgia senators represent their constituents. And I don't think that large PACs should be allowed. The multi-billion dollars that are coming in.
Right. I think that's totally wrong. But if I remember correctly, that wasn't shot down by the Republican legislature. But
it needs to be shot down.
It needs to be done. And number two, I think the airways, the commercials, which is basically the TV commercials, are the things that are costing the candidates the majority of the money. Now, when I worked in television, each, I think, few years, 2 years or 3 years, I forget the amount of time, the station has to get relicensed because the air does not belong to the station. It belongs to the government.
But it's changed now that it's cable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but still, the cable is another story. But if I'm talking about the network TV and the local television stations, not the cables, are the ones that are making the bloody fortune.
Yeah.
It should be free for the election time. If a major candidate wants time, it should be equally allotted to both.
I think
parties.
That's a brilliant idea. I think it's a brilliant idea.
I don't.
Because I have to tell you, you can see the level of anger that is really starting to swell. And when you have, for example, let me see if I've got that information here. But what was reported is that Fox has now slipped to number 3. They used to be number 1. And let me put my glasses on here. But apparently what has happened is because they called the election early in a whole variety of different states, Fox people are now leaving Fox viewers, and they're now number 3. You know where they're all going?
OAN.
Newsmax, no, going
No.
to OEN. But what's also interesting about it is the amount of the layoffs. The layoffs have now started at CNN, have started at Warner Media, which is at NBC. Their third quarter revenue at Comcast, which is owns NBC, was down more than, get this, 80%. 80%. Some of it is COVID, of course, but 80% down year-to-year revenue. Unbelievable. So what's happening at this point right now is that people have said enough is enough. And the problem was going to be, we need to unite, and you need to not force people, those 72 million people, to accept because AP calls an election or CNN calls an election. You have to have the consent of the governed. That's the basics of the Constitution, the consent of the governed.
Yeah, but no matter what you do, especially the hardcore Trumpites.
No.
No matter what you do, they're not going to accept the election.
No, they will accept the election.
Well,
I got to tell you now, and I'll tell you why. Why do I know that? Because they are fair-minded individuals. Number two, all of the boarded up buildings that people were worried about, do you see Trump people going in and burning and looting those buildings? No, you don't.
Would you see Biden people doing that? Would you see Biden people doing that?
I got to tell you, it's very interesting how when there seemed to be some issue about Trump getting ahead of Biden, I must say was very surprised to see the number of riots in Seattle and in Minneapolis and in Portland, Oregon. Those are not, in other words, people told me, oh, the Proud Boys are the ones that are doing all the rioting. They are not. What a bunch of baloney.
There's certain people in this country which are called anarchists. They just had Clifford Ray before the election time said that the group that we have to worry about are the white nationalists. They are the terrorist group in this country.
But if that were the case, why do we not have burned down buildings after this election?
Because number one, he hasn't conceded the election yet. Right now, he still says he is president. I forget who it was. Today I was watching on the news and he said, we're preparing for the second Trump term. Pompeo said that there's not going to be a transition because Trump is going to take right over.
It was a flippant remark.
Yeah, but he meant it. I mean, you don't say flip it when you're the Secretary of State.
I agree with you. I mean, it's just sometimes you just scream at these people, shut up.
I mean,
stop saying things.
It's like Trump when he tweets. He's not.
I agree.
It's not like when I tweet. He is the president of the United States. He represents us. He cannot joke and make fun. His word means things, if not to us, to the rest of the world. Now,
frankly, I could care less about the rest of the world because the rest of the world doesn't give a rat's about us. But the bottom line is we should be very, very concerned about this election, Malcolm. And I'm concerned that you're not worried about it.
No. My question is also to you, aside from why, who would be involved with this conspiracy? And the fact is, why the hell didn't they, if it was a conspiracy on the left wing, the left part of our country, why didn't they make the Democratic Party, why didn't we control the Senate? Why is it still, controlled by?
My answer is there were too many people pushing back.
If it was a conspiracy.
Too many people pushing back.
Number two, they have taken. You believe in our legal system, right?
Of course.
Now, he has all the cases that he has brought up to court, and the judge says, show us proof, have been dismissed.
That's not necessarily so. Keep in mind, you have due process. We all know this is going to be going to the Supreme Court. You know that.
No, we don't. The Supreme Court has to have a reason for...
They have a reason.
Well, if it goes for the Supreme Court, forget about it. We have Trump as
not necessarily.
Well, I don't know the way he has arranged the courts. It's 6-3 conservative. But anyway.
No, not necessarily.
But so far, none of the courts, none of the lower courts, have accepted a case. Their thing is, okay, we understand your concern. Show us proof. Right now, if they say that you have the proof that you have, why haven't they shown it in court?
Well, bottom line is there's been a number of judges who have accepted cases in. For example, in Michigan, you have 256 pages of affidavits, specifically talking about Detroit, talking about the whole situation in Michigan, concerns about the voting system by Dominion. Dominion was the group that was fingered by the Associated Press back in July 3rd of 2019 as having a systemic problem vulnerable to voting fraud. It was purchased by each and every one of these battleground states. Now you kind of scratch your head and go, wait a minute, then maybe we better take a look at this. When I see evidence of vote changing, even 3,000 or 6,000, it concerns me. Does it concern you?
Well, yeah, it concerns me to the fact if that still continued. But
Yeah.
the fact is, supposedly they corrected that glitch. It was a story. I don't know what, well, so we don't know. I mean, if you, again, if you're into conspiracy theories, anything,
No,
anything is possible. Now, well, this is a host, you know, I know you're above QAnon. But they have people that believe that the Democrats headed by Hillary Clinton eat babies or use their blood. Or believe,
you know, there's all kinds of
pornography
out there. It's ridiculous.
What's going to happen is Trump, if he's smart, what he does is leave office, start a network, and has Alex Jones running it. Alex, but the thing is, so far, I mean, they might have presented papers, but the judges have said there's no evidence to start a case.
Well, at this point right now, we're only 10 days, a little more than 10 days out from the election, and a lot of stuff happened. Once again, I call on Joe Biden to say, you're right, we need to do a hand count of all of the ballots. We need to go ahead and make sure that this is an absolute lock solid election. Until he does that, I mean, you cannot have AP calling this. You can't have.
Okay. Taking to the next step. And what should Trump be doing?
What should Trump be doing?
Yeah.
Exactly what he's doing. Waiting.
So he's waiting. So in other words, at this point, they should not share any of the intelligence information to a transition team.
Well, I'm a little surprised that he hasn't. I mean, I'm a little surprised. He really should.
And should he let the people that are the that Biden has made a new committee for the COVID, and let them work with the people that are there now?
Well, if you end up doing that, you guys are going to be locked down until 2025.
Well, he doesn't have to admit that he lost. He said, let's do it.
No, all I'm saying is that the COVID people, for gosh sakes, everybody laughed at Trump saying that, in fact, Operation Warp Speed wouldn't result in any kind of a vaccine. We have Pfizer, who's announced a vaccine less than 3 days ago. We have Moderna, who's got one that's going to be.
Hey, listen,
we're going to be there, thank God, and we're going to be able to live with this thing.
If that works, I'll give him credit for. But I also give him, in the opposite of now, how much each day? Yesterday, if I remember, there were 166,000 people who can bet.
Yes, and the death and the mortality rate is less than a third of it was in April. Now, it's a horrible situation.
It's a horrible situation, and he's still walking around without his mask. And every reputable physician or specialist, and
it's his choice. No. Honestly, Malcolm, it's his choice. It's your choice to wear a mask. It's my choice.
But I'm not.
I choose to wear a mask.
I'm not the president. I'm not the president of the United States.
Well, interestingly enough,
I don't have to set an example.
No. Interestingly enough, you got to give him credit for the fact that when he did contract COVID, he ended up getting the therapeutics that got him out in 3 days. You admit to that?
Yeah, I don't think. First of all, I don't think it was his choice.
Doesn't make any difference.
I think
he had COVID. He was out in 3 days after going to Walter Reed Hospital.
Well, I would
controllable.
If God forbid, I would get the COVID virus. Can I get the helicopter to pick me up and take me to Walter Reed and get all the treatment that he got?
Yeah, you would, because it's available.
I could do that. We'll see to it. As a co-host of our show, I think I should be entitled to it. After all, we reach millions of people throughout the entire world.
I know. Well, I mean, we have at this point the therapeutics, and we're about ready to have a vaccine, and thank goodness for that.
Well, actually, yeah.
I think we should look at that and forget about whether it's Trump or whoever it is. Thank God we had, and thank
yeah. I agree.
We had a response better than we had to swine flu. The number of people who died.
Well, let's stop going with the swine flu and the other things.
Well, it wasn't handled. It wasn't handled correctly.
Yeah, but that's history.
We're now at least prepared.
How is this
be coming in?
How is this being handled?
It's being handled. We now
with 166,000 people getting it each day.
And unfortunately, it could have been close to 2.5 million dead, and it isn't. Thank you for that. Thank goodness for that.
And do you realize we've been sparring now for about a half hour?
Have we?
Yeah.
We come to ideas. Now, what conclusions have we come to that would be a good idea? First, we should be sharing the intelligence briefings.
Intelligence
and Trump. Period. End of story.
Right.
That's the way it needs to be.
He doesn't have to admit anything if he shares it, and he's not sharing with a stranger. Biden's been there. Harris is in the intelligence committee, so she's privy. They all have the classifications. He's also not letting what's the OSA give any money for Biden to open up his offices.
They can't by law, because what the law says is it has to be a bona fide election. It has not been certified at this point, so they can't. Biden's fine. He's got plenty of money.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about that. But the other thing he does, I think the committees for the health committee should be able to exchange ideas and exchange what's happening.
I'm certain that's not being barred at this point.
Yeah, he's being barred. They're not allowed to share. As a matter of fact, from what is said, you could say he has told people in his administration, anyone sending resumes for a new job, they're out of a job. We're going to fire you.
Oh, that's absurd. Don't go that way, Malcolm. That's absurd.
I'm going to leave you this also. Why did he fire the Secretary of Defense? Why did he fire 3 top people in the Pentagon and put his people in there?
He is the president of the United States, and he can fire anybody he damn well.
Well, that's not the question. Of course he can. But the question is, why did he do it?
Who cares? I mean,
I care if he puts a puppet in there that's going to say yes.
Oh, for crying out loud! Malcolm,
anyway, other that, by the way, I think he's. I don't know if this has been on before, but he's supposedly going to make his first press conference this afternoon.
Who's that?
Trump.
Oh, Trump. Oh,
He's supposed to do it in the Rose Garden, him and Pence. But
well, I do hope that Biden will stop saying. Will say to the Democratic leadership to stop demonizing the Trump and the Trump supporters. I do hope they will stop that. It's just totally unnecessary.
Well, first of all, I don't know if I ever can stop demonizing Trump.
Oh, you can. He's a guy.
The Trump voters, only a certain segment of them do I demonize.
No, you.
It's not all. Again, it's not all of them. Some people really believe in him. Anyway, in his policies. Anyway, my dear, we're looking forward to the weekend.
Okay. You have a good weekend, okay?
You have a good weekend. Enjoy, as I know, enjoy nature.
Will do.
And we'll speak at the beginning of next week, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about.
I'm sure we will too.
Anyway, send my love to Fish.
You bet. Love to Anna. Bye-bye.